Before we start, I owe you an apology. If you've noticed the gaps, the late uploads, the inconsistency, you're not imagining it. I've been working long hours at my job, real life, real bills, real grind. But I want you to hear me clearly. I still care about this channel. I still care about this history. And I still believe these stories matter. Because what we do here isn't just content, it's legacy. And today's story, the story of the Golden 13, is one of the most important military stories that still doesn't get the respect it deserves. So thank you for your patience. Thank you for staying with me. Now, let me tell you about 16 black sailors and the 13 who became officers in a Navy that never wanted them to lead. If you think you know how World War II stories go, let this one surprise you, because this wasn't a battle overseas. This was a battle inside the system. In 1944, America was fighting for democracy abroad, but at home, it was still wrestling with whether black Americans deserved full citizenship. And that contradiction lived inside the United States Navy. For decades, the Navy had an unspoken rule. Black sailors could serve, but they could not lead. They could be essential, but not authoritative. So black men were pushed into roles the Navy considered acceptable: stewards, mess attendants, cooks, personal servants to white officers. And it didn't matter if a man was educated. It didn't matter if he was talented. It didn't matter if he had leadership in his bones. The system was built to keep black leadership out of view. But World War II created a problem the Navy couldn't ignore. By the early 1940s, tens of thousands of black Americans were joining the Navy, and the question became unavoidable. Who would lead them? Who would train them? Who would be placed in positions of authority over black sailors if the officer corps remained all white? Pressure grew: public pressure, political pressure, civil rights pressure, and the Navy made a reluctant move. They selected 16 black enlisted men and sent them to Great Lakes, Illinois for a fast-track officer training program. Officially, it was opportunity. Unofficially, it was a test the Navy expected them to fail. Now here's what people don't always tell you. The normal officer training schedule was about 16 weeks, but these men were pushed through an accelerated version in roughly half the time. Imagine being told, do in 8 weeks what others get 16 weeks to do. And imagine hearing it while knowing some of your instructors want you to wash out, not because you're unqualified, but because you're black. Still, these 16 men were not rookies. They weren't random. They were chosen because they were already proven. Many had college experience, many were disciplined, and all had records that said, in one way or another, this man can lead. But the environment at Great Lakes? It was pressure, layered on pressure, constant scrutiny, hostility from some instructors, segregated conditions, limited support, and above all, that feeling that you are not supposed to win. So they did what leaders do. They adapted, they formed a brotherhood, and they turned their survival into strategy. At night, after lights out, they would cover the windows so no one could see the light. They huddled together, studying by flashlight, sometimes in the barracks, sometimes in the bathroom, the head, as the Navy calls it, because it was one of the only places they could work together without harassment. They shared knowledge, navigation, seamanship, gunnery, naval law, regulations, each man bringing what he knew to strengthen the whole group, because they understood something deep. If one fails, they'll say all of us failed. So they moved like a unit. And then came the exams, the final stretch, the moment the system had been waiting for, the moment where, historically, black men were supposed to fall short. But the results came back, and the scores were too high, so high that people reportedly questioned whether the scores could be real. Think about that. These men didn't just pass, they performed so well that the system assumed cheating before it assumed excellence. Did you know? They were forced to retake certain exams because leadership did not believe an all-black class could score that high, and when they retook them, they scored even higher. An average of 3.89 out of 4.0. Let that sit for a second. They were tested, then tested again. and they still outperformed expectations. Now picture what that means emotionally. You've already done the work. You've already proven yourself. And then the system says, we don't believe you. So you do it again. Under pressure, under insult, under the weight of history, and you still win. By early 1944, the Navy could not deny the results. So the next step happened. 12 of those men were commissioned as ensigns, and one was made a chief warrant officer. 13 men, officially, entering a space that had never truly been open to black leadership. They would later become known as the Golden 13. But here's the part that makes this story even more real. Even after they became officers, the Navy still wasn't ready to treat them like officers. Their authority was often restricted. Their assignments were often limited to training black sailors or overseeing all black units, because the Navy still resisted the idea of black officers leading white sailors. Did you know, even though all 16 candidates passed the course, the Navy limited commissions anyway. Only 12 were commissioned as ensigns, and a 13th was made a warrant officer. 3 were sent back to enlisted duty. No clear public reason given. That's how power works when it feels threatened. Now let's talk legacy, because when people hear first, they sometimes assume the story ends there, like the finish line is the first commission. No, that was the starting line, because these men didn't just become officers, they became proof. Proof that black leadership wasn't an experiment, it wasn't a gamble, it was reality. And it forced the Navy to face what it had been avoiding. Every move they made mattered, not just for their careers, but for every black sailor who would come after them. Because if they made a mistake, it wouldn't be called a mistake. It would be used as an excuse. So they had to be more than good. They had to be excellent. And they were. Their success helped crack the door open. And over time, that door opened wider. More black officers, more opportunity, more progress. Not because the system suddenly became kind, but because men like the Golden 13 made it impossible to pretend black leadership didn't belong. And I'm not stopping with just this overview, because I don't want the Golden 13 to stay a group story. I want you to know the men, individually, their backgrounds, their service, their lives after the Navy. So, yes, this is the beginning of a series. I'm making videos about the individual members of the Golden 13, one by one, so you can see the full human story behind the title. And I'm also covering the 3 who passed, but were not commissioned, because their names matter too. Now let me ask you something. What else should we cover on this channel? What other military stories, current or historical, do you want to see? African American, African, Caribbean, Black British, global diaspora heroes. Drop your suggestions in the comments. And if this video taught you something, if it gave you pride, if it gave you perspective, hit the like button and share it with someone who loves history or someone who needs to hear that black excellence has always been here. And if you want to follow this Golden 13 series, make sure you're subscribed, because this story doesn't end here. History never does.